Hello, Patricia O'Connor here, and we're doing our Sunday drop. As you can see, it's finally, according to my Trident maple, it's finally winter. It's winter, Frida. So, I've been looking at this tree every year when it goes full out with its leaves and its foliage, and it's just got a really nice looking rounded umbrella canopy. I'm really happy with it, and that was even the tree that I said, "Wow, I will part with hard-earned bucks and take this tree home and enjoy it." And then it dies back for the winter. You lose all the leaves, and you start looking at all of this branch work. And maybe in between those two times, you started watching, like what I did, started watching and learning, watching videos and learning about ramification and your first structure branches and your secondary branches and your tertiary branches. And then you learn about whether or not you want to defoliate this guy and get a second flush out of it. And I think I did a partial deflush the first year I got it, just to feel like I was doing something, but I don't think I really fully knew why. But then it comes time to turn fall the second year, and by that time I've begun to learn a few things, and I started thinking that, well, next time whenever I start seeing the branch structure of that tree, I'm going to start over, because I will know what to do, and we'll be a few years away from building something that's nice in the way of root structure. And all the while I was saying this, I was still looking at that bright green, beautiful little frogfoot pattern Trident maple leaves that it just really had a beautiful canopy. And I'm really happy with the shape of this tree, as I am the bark, and I like the crackledy bark on it, and the trunk, and I think it's got a pretty good base. Probably have a little bit of root work to do there, but it looks like for what I know, it looks to me like it has a lot of promise in that category. And I thought, well, when this thing is ramified, like some of the ones that I've seen that are really nicely ramified, this will probably be, as nice as I make it. So then with every year, two that I've had it dies back in the winter, and I see better what I have since learned better. I see where I've allowed things to go that probably should have gotten pruned back. I see where the person that had it before me wasn't necessarily working on ramification. They were just trying to fill up the canopy. So I knew this year going in, I thought, well, we will look at this tree with new eyes, and we're going to start seeing how far, like this is a heavy branch to be out this far. That's not a bad size, but this whole thing needs to be cut back as one of our main branches. And what's that doing there? And just looking at a lot of things, there's a lot of 3s and 4s and 5s, and there's a lot of really straight up limbs that if I remove them, I'm doing the right thing, because I'm removing something that's going straight up and is frankly a little thick and a little long, and has everything on the end. But at the same time, that's helping that one thing that we do like in the spring and summer. So knowing that this year would be time to bite the bullet and maybe start setting this thing up for a good finish 5 years from now. And as soon as really the leaves begin to die back, I begin to think of it and go, yeah, well, where does that end? For instance, I like this branch, and so I put a guy wire to it. So I want this to get bigger. I like the way this line goes up and will make this roll. Of course, this branch won't always be this long. I'd like to get this to fatten up, and then and get that shape to it, and then I'll cut it back. I'm also thinking that ultimately instead of just pruning this back, which was my original idea, and starting to build from there. Call this our main branches, and some of these are main branches, and then start building our secondary. Even if that makes it look a little lumpy at first, we'll start building it right. There's a lot of branches coming out from right here, and most of them are pointed the wrong directions. So when we start straightening this stuff up, we're going to make gaps, but as we start trimming this stuff back, so too will it bud forward. And that's where I was starting to go. And where does that end? Because, yes, I like this branch. I'm not really crazy about the way this one is starting, because this is my main bottom branch, and I think this is very straight and doesn't have anything else going on for not a lot of good reasons. I think that goes up too high. Same here. I would like to see more branches down in here, and then maybe do a chop, maybe above this line, and just take this whole section of the tree off, or maybe if I see some new buds coming out here or out here, I try to play off that and chop it back sooner. And to that end, I'm thinking I will ultimately do the same here. Now, about that, I'm not going to do that now. I have been waiting like everybody else in the Bay Area, and I've been seeing my counterparts talk about their just now being able to do their fall work. And some of those houses have been doing this a lot longer than I have. So I'm not the only one who's in this game. But since this tree has been messed with in that it hadn't really gotten much of a winter, in that also I've got heaps to learn about it, and combined with the fact that the last time I did a major chop on a maple, it was a Japanese maple, and it didn't respond well. I'm going to give it a break this year. What I just said about those trunk chops are what's in my head that I think is necessary, and that is exactly what I want to present to somebody when I have a moment to get with somebody who is wiser. I'd like to tell them my idea about doing that chop, and I'd like to get a better feel about what the ramifications of that might be, good or bad. So that way I won't be making a huge honking mistake. In the meantime, I'm going to do a little of what I'd originally thought about. Some of these absolutely straight up branches that are there because they do add to our canopy, but not much else. I'm going to start trimming those back. Some of this other stuff that's way too big, I think, to be up like that, I'll cut that back. So I'm just going to do a light little cut back, like we were really happy, everybody was really happy. And then the first time when this, the other side of this too, was this would be a good opportunity for me to take this tree, not do anything with it. And then on Wednesday, when I go to my bonsai meeting, I can take this with me, as I had intended to do. Now, with our new and improved COVID restrictions, this will just be done over Google. So we're all gonna meet online, which is better than nothing. I'm still glad I really have that, and I'm sure it's gonna be great. But as far as being able to show this tree to some people who really have their game or their head in maples and ask for some advice, I don't really see that happening until I can get up close and personal with my tree. I wouldn't be 100% positive that I showed the tree in the right light to get, the right judgment otherwise. I mean, that's just kind of how. So also, it's probably not a bad idea with the winter that we've had to put off going all crazy with the saws. But that is basically what I intend to do. Let this fatten up. Ultimately, probably maybe next year if we actually get our winter, I'll do a chop there. If I get something spiking and growing in here, I'll try to promote that and cut most of this height out of here, just shorten the height of the tree. And when it comes to this third section of the chicken's foot, I will either take out this top third or I will cut it back even shorter. I'm also just going to do some trim and encourage more growth down here. Now, this is what I'll do tonight. Tonight I'm going to start looking back with a couple of years under my belt and start cleaning up some of the stuff that I didn't want to cut before because I knew I would have gaps in the hairdo, as they say. But on this branch, my first branch is actually like bicycle bars, and neither of them are particularly, this has one, 2, 3, 4 branches coming bifurcating out of that. So, maybe pick that down to 2, spread those out, or pick that down to whatever 2, and then trim those back. And then everything that's going straight up and too big, let's start trimming that back. And that's probably what I'll do tonight while I have a science fiction movie playing or something in the background. But I wasn't going to make the program just about that because that wasn't actually going to be any real cutting action. That's just more or less kind of what I've decided to do. I'm coming along on this tree trying to figure out what it is that I need to do to make a nice tree out of here. If it's 5 years down the line, fine. If it's 10 years down the line, fine. But I've picked up on things. I know the main thing I picked up on is all of these distances are way too long for our first main branches. So when I first started thinking about cutting those back, the obvious question was, is what they're attached to too long too? And once I looked at that, I'm like, yeah, I think it is. And unless the wisers look at that and say, if you do, you're going to be sorry, and then say why, that's probably what I'll do this time next year, providing we get a good winter. Now, that brings us back around to something that I started a little while ago. I did some pruning when this started to finally turn its rusty colors. I did most of the pruning that I want to do to it. In the past, when I first got into these, people were telling me you're going to constantly be pinching them, and I'm like, well, that's good. I like having stuff to do. I think I'm going to back off that. No offense to you guys that are all about the pinching, but what we're going to do to put it in terms that I think are replicatable is I'm going to pick out branches like so and like so and like so, and one of these two, but I'm not sure which, and like so and like so. And to that end, I would like to, this will probably come back because a lot of times you have to cut these back more than once, and I hope it does. I regret cutting that back. And something over here can come back. I'll probably go with that, which is kind of BS because in the spring it's just going to bust out like somebody needing a shave in the worst way. So at that point, I am not going to pinch the trees. Our recovery time and the time it takes to build the trees we want all hinges on letting all the stuff that it wants to put out, letting it put out and turn all of that into fuller mass, and then allowing that fuller mass to photosynthesize and allowing that photosynthesis to go back down into the roots and make stuff that is, just get that action going back and forth. And that's what it will take to build a shape that goes from here and gets big enough to come down there, and a shape that gets big enough to come down from here to there. Now, I never finished the thought that I was having earlier. I was kind of mentioning I got a little reverse taper here and a little reverse taper here. If there were some reason that I wanted to keep those 2 leaders, and I do not. But if there was some reason that, well, for one thing, I was looking at it last year when it was all full out as a working height. I think that's terrific. Even though I'm going to chop that back, when they get done, I'm thinking that their finish height will be about what that is now. But say for whatever reason I was just going to try to pull the bus up to the stop there and grow it out, I could get rid of this reverse taper by getting rid of these heavier, thicker branches. Boom, right? And cutting things back shorter up here and allowing things to go longer down here. In other words, I could fatten up the bottom and let that catch up. It looks to me like that probably happened where the wire was digging in, and because I allowed all of this bicycle handlebar stuff, I allowed these guys to grow super long, and just because I wanted all of that energy to go up, and I made those fat. So I could have fixed that if it were necessary, but that was never the plan. Now it's the time of year, or now, between now and whenever, but it's finally winter, and we're not, and it's the 8th or 9th of January, right in there, Sunday, whatever day that is. So I guarantee that I probably am not going to have 3 or 4 weeks of winter. The weather forecast doesn't show any more rain. Today was already warmer than it was yesterday, and I'm expecting that we will get more winter than the nothing of it we've gotten so far. But now that it is here, I can chop those back any time between now and the time that they start well and truly start leafing out. And I will probably, I'm making a decision where to chop those now. The other decision that I've already made is the leader that's closest to us, this side. I like the idea of that being the taller of the two. I was looking at that from the living room earlier and wondering if I had that all to do again, would I want to do it differently? And no, I really think that works out best. Here's the one thing that would kill that, or the one thing that would make the back one more dominant. Last year, when I got this tree, it started with this leader over here and this leader. And I made a mistake, and I'm going to tell you what the mistake is so that you won't let this happen to you. I pruned it back because it was still flushing out, just like it was in the middle of the growing season, late in the summer. You know, there's a part of time in the summer where everything kind of slows down, and then when you notice that that part of the summer is over and it's picked back up, except it wasn't fall here yet, so everything just started going gangbusters, and I did a little clip back, and because of that, I got a lot more shoots. And one of the places that I got shoots was I got a shoot when this was the main branch, and that was the main branch, and they were both chopped about that high at the time. This one came up, and one right inside there came up. And I went, next spring, this one is going to be my new leader, and this one is going to be my new leader. But because those two baby sprouts came up in the absolute perfect place so late in the game, that by the time we got through our winter and we got through back to our spring, one of the two didn't survive. It just curled back and died. Like, you know, it wasn't big enough to be, this one was, and that was one of the two. So I chopped that. That way I allow the trunk to make a more clean transition. This one, I've got a year's growth into that because I lost that spike, but it bows out. But before it gets done, it's got to do all of this anyway. So in the end, I don't know how much that's gonna matter, but I'm not gonna fret it if I don't get my way. But I'm already thinking this. Oh yeah, I'm already thinking I should probably cover that too. I'm already thinking this. And this is one thing I'm just kind of thinking about. If next spring I get a shoot right here, I'll probably do another chop on that and try to allow this to be the a dominant. So I think that's just a much cleaner line. I was excited about that when I had two shoots coming exactly where I wanted them. And losing one, I went, okay, we still got that one. We'll take off with that one. And I'll give up that whole year if I get one exactly where I want it again next year. Now the year after that, all bets are off. After this, whatever we go into in the summer, be it this one or one here in the future, that'll be the base of that from now on. In the meantime, I'm going to cut this one off right. My first cut is going to be like sort of straight. Kind of hard to do sort of straight with hybrid cutters, but it doesn't have to be angled because I'm going to want my shoot to detect. I'm going to want the shoot that comes out and does whatever it wants to do to dictate that next angled cut. And this one I want to be shorter than that one. See all those little bumps in there? Those are going to be all of our next round of buds. Hey buds, cut that straight, Patricia. Boom. Okay, so like I said, when one of these comes out and jets out, we'll wrap a little wire around it and stick it straight up the way we did this guy. And you may have remembered when I did this guy, I said there's a danger with doing this, and that is it may not survive the winter. And I was really saying that I wanted it to change from the bright green waxy color that it was to the what everybody else calls as waxy, which is this. And it kind of goes at first the purple and then sort of a maroon before then turning brown, and then it gets more barky, I guess would be the made up word of choice for that. So that's my little chops there. I'll put a little cut paste on both of those, and I'll put a little cut paste on that, which my lazy butt didn't put cut paste on earlier. These stubs sticking out, plus like I said, if I get one over here and if I get one over here or over here, it'll be fine. Wherever I get one down here to bring it out towards the front. I think when I chopped those back, I was thinking flat top. Since about maybe mid-summer last summer, I was like, these are going to be conventional. These are going to be conventional Japanese formal uprights. I think they'll be absolutely elegant like that. And for that reason, I'm going to allow whatever branches come out lower in these trees. I'm going to chop those back like I've done these, so that they can be our foundation branches. Now, so you kind of, in case I've made it confusing by talking about letting everything grow back and then talking about where I'm cutting things back to. So once I've decided what my foundation is, and basically my foundation is the base of the branches that you see here, plus wherever I get those couple of additions, and I've shown you where they are. Everything else, we will allow those things to grow out long enough to thicken up. And when they get, comparable thickness to some of these guys, then I'll chop them back immediately, allowing everything else that came out. I mean, even if this thing looks like 3 hairy legs, I'm just going to allow everything else to just flush full the freak out. And make all of those leaves and all those fronds and make all that photosynthesis and all of that food and store up all those sugars. And then when it dies back like this, I will chop it back to what my baseline is and what my secondary is. And then next year, I will let everything on the tree go full out except my secondaries. I'll make sure that they don't get out of proportion. Everything else I will pretty much leave alone and let it go total nuts unless it wants to make something go out of shape. I won't allow threes to go on long enough to misshape something, but you know, that's my only restraint. I'm not going to start pinching stuff off as soon as it comes out and try to maintain a tree that I like the shape of while these guys are training. One thing that I have learned this year is you can do that. That may not be the best. So with that, everybody I left the lights on a little long, but it's okay. Our days are getting longer. I don't think that the trees are going to hold it up against me. One thing I try to always do is I make sure that these guys are off an hour before the sun actually sets and doesn't come up until an hour or two after it goes down. I'll cut them off here in front of us since it's already about 15 minutes past the time, and you can see that we've still got plenty of daylight. What I want to make sure is that the trees always take their cue from the real deal. That keeps us from getting into some trouble with the timing and them not knowing what day it is. That can be confusing enough when it's 60 degrees on January. When everybody's going out to the hot tub on January 8th, because it's the hot tub at January 8th, it can be a little confusing, and I don't want to add light issues to that. So even with timers, I just killed my timer on that one. Lucky for me, I know somebody who works at a hardware store, and it's not as critical in the winter over the same timing issue. They just need to go off. They just need to go off an hour before that thing behind the clouds and come on a couple of hours after it. Other than that, we'll be good. My Japanese black pine is looking a lot greener and doing a lot better. Thank you everyone for your concern and suggestions. I really sincerely appreciate it. I appreciate you. And like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you guys again. I suppose mañana. We'll see how it goes. I mean, it will be tomorrow. I don't know. It may be late tomorrow though. And yeah, everybody's been watered. Everybody's been doing good. Our weather is gorgeous. And thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. And Frida appreciates you.